Hey y'all. So we back for our 1 year reading Bible plan, and we supposed to be starting the book of Leviticus today. Now, not gonna lie, I just finished the book of Leviticus in another Bible study probably like a couple days ago. So when I knew I had to do it today, I was like, yeah, not really up for it. Book of Leviticus didn't feel like it was my style, but out of the sprinkling and the shedding of blood, but I really enjoyed today's study. So I said that to say I hope that encouraged somebody. Sometimes you just have to try it again, but try it with God. Like I went through a thorough study and I really gained some stuff from these chapters that I read in Leviticus. I really enjoyed it. So we reading today, we pick up book of Leviticus, January 23rd. Where it said January 23rd, book of Leviticus, chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 7, verse 38. Before we start reading, let's recap from the last couple of chapters that we did in Exodus on yesterday. So Exodus, we read chapter 35 through chapter 40. What had happened was Moses, after Moses come from the mountain and he got the new set of agreement with the 10 commandments, he tell the Israelites like basically what to do, what not to do. Honor the Sabbath day, don't rest, don't light no fires, don't do none of that. Also, God told Moses to start accepting gifts and offerings from the people, and God told Moses what kind of gifts were acceptable for him to accept from the Israelites for the advancement of the temple, basically. So Moses ran it by them people like, look, this is what we need. We need oil, acacia wood, we need fine leather, we need all this type of stuff. So these the type of gifts that we accepting. All of y'all decide what y'all want to bring, but these y'all decide what y'all want to bring out of the list. But this is the list of things that's acceptable. Basically, he ran it by them. Also, Bezalel. It was a man named Bezalel from the tribe of Judah and a man named Aholiab, if I'm not mistaken, from the tribe of Dan. And God had put his spirit inside of them and gave them the skills to basically be skilled in everything that needed to be done in the temple when it comes to sewing and weaving, the ephod, which is the garment and robes for the priest, building and sculpting, different furnitures and making them out of gold, all that type of stuff. Bezalel and Aholiab were skilled workers in that field. So God gave Moses the blueprint, everything that had to be done in the temple, the meeting tent, all that type of stuff. He gave the instructions to Bezalel and Aholiab, and they executed. So they end up building the entire holy tent. Um, Everything that went inside the tent, all the furniture, down to the altar, the table, the lampstands, everything that belonged in the temple. They executed. They did exactly what needed to be done. They did the garment, the ephod, everything for the priest. They got everything up and running for this temple in a way that it needed to be, so that this temple can run like exactly how God wanted it. So that was our recap for Exodus. We finished with the book of Exodus. Now we on our third book of the Bible. And Moses is also the writer of the book of Leviticus. So Moses is the author of Genesis, um, Exodus, and this book Leviticus that we're in. He wrote more books, but we gonna cross that big bridge when we get there. So let us read the book of Leviticus chapter 1, and this gonna be part 2 video, 2 parts, especially for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. TikTok, it might not be. As long as it don't run over an hour for TikTok, it's fine. But the other is gonna be probably 2 part. Okay, so we're doing Leviticus 1 through 7. So we read in 7 chapters. I'm gonna do 1 through 4 in the first part, and I'm gonna do 5 through 7 in the second part. Now let us read. Leviticus chapter 1. And it reads, so the Lord called out to Moses uh, from inside the meeting tent and said, tell the Israelites, when you bring an offering to the Lord, the offering must be one of your tame animals. It can be a sheep, a goat, or one of your cattle. Pause. So when God say make sure it's a tame animal, God was saying make sure it's one that's trained. Make sure it's one that's gentle and not dangerous. When you bring in an offering to me and you want me to accept it, yeah, don't just bring me anything. See, that's where Cain messed up with Abel, and it was not acceptable to the Lord, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, God said, in order for it to be what make sure it's tame, make sure it's trained, gentle, not dangerous. Verse 3, if you offer one of your cattle as a burnt offering, it must be a bull that has nothing wrong with it. You must take the animal to the entrance of the meeting tent where the Lord will accept the offering. You must put your hand on the animal's head while it is being killed, so the Lord would accept it as your burnt offering to make you pure. Now pause. So my question was, why did the Israelites have to put their hand on the animal's head while it was being killed? So we know that the wages of sin is death. So the hand on the animal head was symbolic to the transferring of sin or guilt. It was signifying that it's the animal instead of the sinner that's being sacrifice, that's dying or paying for the penalty of sin, basically. So this is Old Testament. Jesus wasn't on the scene yet, so he came on the scene. Now he's the ultimate sacrifice. Jesus, which is the lamb, is the ultimate sacrifice. So now all we got to do is repent and confess, confess our sins and turn away from that wicked way. But back in the Old Testament, lay the hand on the animal, that symbolized transferring a sin. It's this animal that's dying instead of me, because the wages of sin are death. So that's that right there. And I'm just looking down at my notes that I took while studying. And okay, so verse 3. If you offer one of your cattle as a burnt offering, it must be a bull that has nothing wrong with it. You must take the animal to the entrance of the meeting tent where the Lord will accept the offering. You must put your hand on the animal's head while it is being killed, so the Lord will accept it as your burnt offering to make you pure. Verse 5, you must kill the young bull in front of the Lord. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, will bring the blood to the altar that is near the entrance of the meeting tent. He has splashed the blood on all 4 sides of the altar. You must remove the skin from the animal and then cut the animal into pieces. Aaron's sons, the priests, will put the fire on the altar and arrange the wood on the fire. They will lay the pieces of animal, including the head and fat, on top of the burning wood. You must wash the legs and inner parts of the animals with water. Then the priests bring all these parts to the altar to be offered as a burnt offering, a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. If you offer a sheep or a goat as a burnt offering, it must be a male that has nothing wrong with it. You must kill the animal on the north side of the altar in front of the Lord. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, will splash the animal's blood on all 4 sides of the altar. You must cut the animal into pieces and remove the head and the fat. The priest will then lay them on the wood that is on the fire of the altar. You must wash the legs and inner parts of the animal with water. Then a priest will bring all these parts to the altar to be offered as a burnt offering, a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. Verse 14, if you offer a bird as a burnt offering to the Lord, that bird must be a dove or a young pigeon. Pause. So I'm like, why dove? Why young pigeon? What is this about? So these two birds, the dove and the pigeon, they symbolizes purity and innocence, and they were easy to find. So this was to provide, when it comes to the dove and the young pigeon, this was to provide a more affordable sacrifice for the poor or less fortunate people, so that everybody can participate in the atonement, regardless of their living status or their tax bracket. Now, atonement means the payment or compensation for sin, to reconcile us back to God, basically. So the dove and the young pigeon, they was easy accessible, easy to find, right at your fingertips. If you needed to pay a penalty for your sin, basically, it's so that everybody, ain't nobody exempt. So if you ain't got no bull, no lamb, no ram, no cattle, go get your dove, go get your young pigeon. That's what that means. Verse 15, the priest will bring the offering to the altar. There the priest will remove the bird's head, drain out the blood on the side of the altar, and burn the bird on the altar. He'll remove the bird's tail and inner parts and throw them onto the pile of ashes east of the altar. Then the priest will tear the bird open by its wings, but he must not divide it completely into two parts. So he'll bring the bird to the altar to be offered as a burnt offering, a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. So in this chapter, God is basically telling Moses exactly how these offerings need to be done in order for them to be acceptable for him. Also, if you want to read or follow along, we reading from the ERV version in the Bible app, Holy Bible app. Leviticus chapter 2. When you give a grain offering to the Lord, your offering must be made from fine flour. Pause. So pause. Hold on. Wait. Um your offering must be made from fine flour. You must pour oil on this flour and put frankincense on it. So frankincense is it's a gum-like resin, but it smelled real good. It was used, it was symbolic for holy, sacred. It was used to like burn incense in the temple, basically. So, he said, you must pour, if, with the grain or offering, you must pour oil on this flour and put frankincense on it. Then you must bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests. One of them will take a handful of the flour with oil and frankincense in it. He'll bring this part, which represents the whole grain offering, to the altar. There to be burnt up as a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. The rest of that grain offering will belong to Aaron and his sons. This gift to the Lord is very holy. So, like we said, the frankincense is like a good smelling resin that they would get from a certain type of tree and burn it as an incense. It was valuable, and the fragrance was used as a sacred incense in worship, symbolizing holiness, prayer, and God's presence. So, when it says, um, he'll bring this part, which represents the whole grain offering, to the altar. What is a whole grain offering and what is it for? So, and the whole grain offering is very holy. It's a very holy gift to the Lord according to the Old Testament and the Levitical law. So this type of offering, which is the whole grain offering, it was not a sin offering. This was to give thanks to God. Basically, this was to show gratitude. It showed how devoted, pure, and how dedicated you were to the daily work of God. This was a gratitude offering. So unlike the sin or the burnt offering where you lay your hand for the transferring of sin, no, the grain offering was a very holy gift dedicated to the Lord, basically to show gratitude. So when they say this is a very holy gift, holy means sacred. Very holy means very sacred, very connected with God, very divine, very set apart, and worthy as perfect in goodness and righteous. righteousness. That is what holy is. Um, verse 4, it said, if you give a grain offering that was baked in the oven, it must be unleavened bread made from fine flour with mixed oil, or it must be wafers with oil poured over them. Pause. What is a baked grain offering? Similar to the grain offering, basically it's not a necessity. It's a you volunteer to give the grain or the baked offering. It's to uh show God your appreciation, basically. Show God your appreciation and your gratitude. Verse 5, if you bring a grain offering cooked in a baking pan, it must be made from fine flour without yeast and mixed with oil. You must break it into pieces and pour oil over it. It is a grain offering. If you bring a grain offering cooked in a frying pan, it must be made from fine flour with oil. Verse 8, when you bring grain offerings made from these things to the Lord, you must get them to the priest, and he will take them to the altar. Then the priest will take part of the grain offering and lift it up as a memorial offering. He'll bring it to the altar to be burnt up as a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. Pause. So, when he say a memorial offering, what is that? A memorial offering is of a tangible reminder of the worshippers' devotion, prayer, and covenant to God. So it's a tangible symbol to show God that we locked in. It's accompanied by gratitude and devotion, though. But a memorial, like he said, the priest, which is Aaron or his sons, they're going to take this offering that you get them, they're going to lift it up to God, and yeah, bring it to the offering to be burnt, and it's sweet smelling gifts to the Lord. Verse 10, the rest of that grain offering belong to Aaron and his sons. This gift to the Lord is very holy. Once again, not of necessity, is voluntary gift, you showing your gratitude to the Lord. back in the levitical Back in Levitical law in the Old Testament. um Verse 11, you must not give any grain offering to the Lord that has yeast in it. You must not burn yeast or honey as a gift to the Lord. So that's what's unacceptable. God said, that's why I draw the line. Don't bring me no with no yeast in it, because it won't be acceptable. Verse 12, you may bring yeast and honey to the Lord as an offering from the first harvest, but they must not be put on the altar to be burnt as a sweet smell. Not doing that. Verse 13, also, you must put salt on every grain offering you bring. You must not forget to add salt, because it represents God's agreement with you. Always put salt on these offerings. So when it comes to the memorial offerings, the grain offerings, all whole grain off, put salt on it. Put salt on it. That's what he's saying. Verse 14, if you bring a grain offering from the first harvest uh, to the Lord, you must bring roasted heads of grain. They must be crushed heads of fresh grain. This will be your grain offering from the first harvest. You must put oil and frankincense on it. It is a grain offering. Uh, Pause. So this is talking about bringing a grain offering from the first harvest to the Lord. So what this means, the grain offering it's a voluntary offering as well. It symbolizes a public tribute to acknowledge God for him being the source that provides and supplies you with all of your blessings, basically. So these when they would bring their first uh grain offerings from their first harvest, is basically it acknowledge God. I acknowledge this a tribute to you, that I know this is a public tribute, that I know that all my blessings, all my resources, everything that I got, everything that I have, you are the source of where I got it from. And it's to show gratitude, to give back. I thank you for that, basically. Verse 16, it say the priest must burn part of the crushed grain, the oil, and all the frankincense on it as a memorial offering. It's a gift to the Lord. Um, Leviticus chapter 3, fellowship offering. If you offer one of your cattle as a fellowship offering, it can be a bull or a cow, but the animal you offer to the Lord must have nothing wrong with it. So just like he said in the beginning, the tame animal, it must not be dangerous, it must be trained, it without blemish. That's what it's given. So fellowship offering, what is a fellowship offering? Excuse me. It's a voluntary offering. Worshipers will share a meal with God in the community. So when you go to church and you eat real good, fellowship offering. Whatever you get to the church, whatever animal, according to Old Testament, whatever animal you bring to the priest or the preacher pastor, that's your fellowship offering. That's the offering for fellowship. That's for us to eat together. We eating with God, basically. We eating with one another. And like God said, it must not be nothing wrong with it. Because would you bring food that had mold on it? That's an animal, but the meat spoiled. Like, come on, make it make sense. Verse 2, you must put your hand on the animal's head and kill the animal at the entrance of the meeting tent. Um, Then Aaron's sons, the priests, will splash the blood on all four sides of the altar. The priest will take a part of that fellowship offering as a gift to the Lord. He'll take the fat that is over and around the inner parts. He'll take the two kidneys and the fat covering them, near the lower back muscle. He'll also remove the fat of the liver that is near the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons will bring the fat to the altar and put it on the burnt offering that is on the wood on the fire. It is a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. So basically, when it comes to the fellowship offering, the fat part belongs to God. That's the one fellowship offering. This is what community eat with God. So the priest is gonna take the animal, kill it, cook it, and we gonna eat it. But the fat part, the blood part, that is what's to be spread on the altar, burnt on the altar, and the smell is the altar. It's the offer for God. That's God portion of the meal, basically. Verse 6, if you offer a sheep or a goat as a fellowship offering to the Lord, whether it is a male or a female, it must have nothing wrong with it. If you bring a lamb as an offering to the Lord, you must put your hand on the animal's head and kill it in front of the meeting tent. Then Aaron's sons will splash the animal's blood on all four sides of the altar. The priest will take part of the fellowship offering to the altar as a gift to the Lord. The priest must cut off the tail close to the backbone. Then he'll offer the tail with all its fat and the fat that is over and around the animal's inner parts. He'll also offer the two kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He'll also offer the fat part of the liver. He must remove it with the kidneys. Then the priest will take that part to the altar to be burnt up as food, a gift to the Lord. Like we said, that part of the animal is for the Lord. Verse 12, if the offering is a goat, you must bring it before the Lord. You must put your hand on the goat's head and kill it in front of the meeting tent. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, must splash the goat's blood on all four sides of the altar. The priest will give part of the fellowship offering as a gift to the Lord. He'll offer the fat that is over and around the animal's inner parts. He'll offer the two kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He'll also offer the fat part of the liver. He'll remove it with the kidneys. Then a priest will bring that food as a sweet smelling gift to the Lord. The fat belongs to the Lord. This rule will continue forever through all your generations. Wherever you live, you must never eat fat or blood. Leviticus chapter 4, and this is our last chapter for the first part. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, tell the Israelites this: a person might sin without meaning to and do something that the Lord commanded should not be done. For example, If the anointed priest makes a mistake that leaves the people guilty for their sin, he must offer a young bull to the Lord as a sin offering. The bull must have nothing wrong with it. The anointed priest must bring the bull to the entrance of the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must put his hand on the bull's head and kill the bull in front of the Lord. Then the anointed priest must get some of the blood from the bull and take it into the meeting tent. He must put his finger in the blood and sprinkle the blood 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain of the most holy place. The priest must put some of the blood on the corners of the incense altar. This altar is in the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. This altar is at the entrance of the meeting tent. Then a priest must take all the fat from the bull of the sin offering. He must take the fat that is on and around the inner parts. He must take the 2 kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He must also take the fat part of the liver. He must remove it with the kidneys. The priest must lift up these things and burn them on the altar for burnt offerings, just as he does for the fellowship offering. But the priest must carry out the bull's skin, inner parts, and body waste, and all the meat, including the head and legs. He must carry those parts outside the camp to the special place where the ashes are poured out. He must put those parts on the wood and burn them there on the ash pile. The whole nation of Israel. So that is this offering um is for the priest, basically, if the priest end up doing something wrong. So verse 13 it say the whole nation of Israel might sin without knowing it. They might break one of the commands of the Lord and become guilty of doing something he said must not be done. When they learn about that sin, the community of Israel must offer a young bull as a sin offering for the whole nation. They must bring the bull to the meeting tent. So this is everybody just messing up. This what must be done. Verse 15, the elders of the people must put their hands on the bull's head in front of the Lord. Then they must kill the bull in front of the Lord. The anointed priest must get some of the bull's blood and take it into the meeting tent. He must put his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times in front of the curtain before the Lord. He must put some of the blood on the corners of the altar. This altar is inside the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must he must then pour out all the blood at the base of the altar of the burnt offering. This altar is at the entrance of the meeting tent. Then he must take all the fat from the animal and bring it to the altar. He must offer these parts just as he offered the bull of the sin offering. In this way, the priest will make the people pure and God will forgive them. The priest must carry this bull outside the camp and burn it just as he burnt the other bull. This is the sin offering for the whole community. So first we did the priest. Now we're doing the whole community. Verse 22, it say a ruler, head honcho, somebody in charge, a ruler might sin without meaning to and break one of the commands of the Lord. He might do something that his God said must not be done. If he learns about his sin, sometimes we don't be knowing, but if you come to that knowledge, he must bring a male goat that has nothing wrong with it as his offering. The ruler must put his hand on the goat's head and kill the goat at the place where they kill the burnt offering before the Lord. The goat is a sin offering. The priest will take some of the blood of the sin offering on his finger and put it on the corners of the altar of the burnt offering. He'll pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. The priest will burn all the goat's fat on the altar just as he does for the fellowship offering. In this way, the priest will make the ruler pure and God will forgive him. So it gotta be done like this. If you want to be forgiven, it do. Verse 27, finally, one of you common people. So first it was the priest if he did something wrong. Then it was the whole community of Israel if they all sinned as a whole. Then it was a ruler. Now finally, if it's just one common person that might sin without meaning to. It say you might break one of the commands of the Lord and become guilty of doing something he said must not be done. Verse 28, if you learn about this sin, you must bring a female goat that has nothing wrong with it as your sin offering. You must put your hand on the animal's head and kill it at the place for the burnt offering. Then the priest will take some of the goat's blood on his finger and put it on the corners of the altar of burnt offering. He'll pour out the rest of his blood at the base of the altar. The priest will then remove all its fat, just as he does for the fellowship offering. Then he'll bring it to the altar as a sweet smell to the Lord. The priest will do this to make you pure, and God will forgive you. Verse 32. If you bring a lamb as your sin offering, then you must bring a female lamb that has nothing wrong with it. You must put your hand on the animal's head and kill it as a sin offering in the place where people kill the burnt offering. The priest will take some of the blood from the sin offering on his finger and put it on the corners of the altar of burnt offering. He'll pour out the rest of the lamb's blood at the base of the altar. He'll then remove all the lamb's fat, just as he does for the fellowship offering. Then he'll bring it to the altar as a gift to the Lord. The priest will do this to make you pure, and God will forgive you. That is chapter 4 of Leviticus, part 2.